from me. All of what I know with her beside me.
Though the numbers are unclear, there are many people who live in different countries to their families. Separated from their parents, grandparents, aunts and uncles, they lead lives often so different to the ones they left back there, with two separate homes, two separate identities. I'm one of those people, and in this film I will explore the impact of such distance on family life.
All I see is how I could.
So this is day one of my journey to see my dad in Poland. This time is a little bit more difficult because currently there's Storm Dennis going on, which could potentially affect my flight. It could be cancelled, it could be delayed, and if it does end up getting delayed, obviously that means I get to spend less time with my family, which is going to be kind of annoying. We basically had to leave 5 hours early to 5 hours before my flight takes off in case there is flooding or any accidents on the motorway, and I'm genuinely like really scared if there's going to be any turbulences and stuff like that, so we'll see.
I actually got lucky enough to end up with an hour's delay, but weather conditions are no joke, and hundreds of flights have been cancelled that weekend, with many travellers having to change their plans, some of them missing out on being with their loved ones. Polish people are generally very family oriented. Some of us have bigger families and some of us have smaller ones, but regardless, we tend to spend a lot of time together. As of 2018, there are over 800,000 Polish-born people living in the UK, with me being one of them, which means that I'm currently living approximately 1,100 miles away from my dad, my grandma, and the rest of my family. But of course, I can't be the only one.
So you start recording already?
Yeah.
Well, I'm Tom. I've lived in the UK for about 15 years now. Most of my family is in Poland, only just a couple here. In two cities mainly, in Radom and Zamość. It's about 1,020 miles.
How often do you get to see your family in Poland?
Not very often. I've been a couple of weeks back, but I went to Zakopane. We tried to go every year, but for the past 4 or 5 years it didn't really work out. I wish I could see them more because, you know, once a year or once every 2-3 years it's not enough. It's like you want to keep that bond with your family, but you're just not able to because you can't go. What really stops us, I guess, it's like, yeah, it's just the holidays and, you know, my holidays or my schoolwork or my job.
Powiedz coś do kamery.
Cześć kamero. Mówiłem do ciebie, gdyż zostałem o to poproszony. Nie jest to przemowa przygotowana, więc nie czytam skargi. Pozdrawiam.
Dobra, to dzięki. The truth is, it's tough. If we don't miss each other on a daily basis, we will on holidays and birthdays. It's just how things go when you're thousands of miles apart. And suddenly, when you fly over, you realize that your baby cousin has weirdly gotten taller and your best friend is talking about starting a family, even though you are still in school what seems like yesterday. Things change and your life goes on too. You're not the same person you were last year and you can't expect them to be. Tu jest ładnie. Dobra. A udawaj, że jestem tam i ze mną rozmawiasz.
Chyba się znamy już około 9-10 lat. Któregoś dnia przyszłaś z koleżanką, a ja byłam tam ze znajomymi i się poznałyśmy. Nasza przyjaźń rozkwitła z czasem. To było takie na początku, że no znajoma, koleżanka, okej. Potem dopiero jakoś zaczęłyśmy się przyjaźnić, im więcej czasu spędzałyśmy ze sobą. Teraz widujemy się, jak dobrze obliczę, to raz na rok.
Edita is one of my best friends and actually the only friend from Poland that I keep in touch with on a regular basis. Despite the distance, we still somehow managed to upkeep this relationship. And although I wish we could see each other more often, it's actually kind of nice to have this big catch-up once or twice a year.
Kiedyś widywałyśmy się codziennie, parę razy dziennie i jak widać do tej pory ta nasza przyjaźń przetrwała. I wtedy też przetrwała te kilka lat.
I jaka jest twoja ulubiona rzecz, którą robimy razem, jak przyjeżdżam?
Ogólnie, że spędzamy czas razem.
Czyli cokolwiek.
Cokolwiek. Ja mogę z tobą robić praktycznie wszystko, aby było po prostu to razem, bo to jest wspólne cieszenie się z małych rzeczy i też z tych większych rzeczy.
They say that morning comes for
My dad and I have lived separately for the best part of 4 or 5 years now. Despite the distance, we actually get along better than ever, even though we only manage to see each other around twice per year. Here's a breakdown of what it actually takes each time. To get from my home in the UK to Poland should be a relatively straightforward journey, but first we need to take into account getting to an airport, say in London, which takes an hour and a half. The cost will vary depending on if I'm taking a train or car, but it's around £50 return. Then there's the flight itself from London to Warsaw, which is roughly 2.5 hours. The cost of that with some hand luggage will be around £50 at its cheapest and goes up to £300 around Christmas. The last bit of the journey from the airport to my second home takes around an hour depending on which airport I fly into and costs £30 return. Then of course you have to repeat every step on the way back and add all the waiting times in between. So the journey total is 15 hours and the cost will vary between £130 to £350, which doesn't even include your luggage or things like your spending money. Nagrywam dźwięk na telefonie. Czy też możesz? Ja się właśnie zdrzemnęłam.
No ja też, tylko tak chwilę tylko drzemałem, bo zadzwoniłeś.
Sorry.
O,
Dobra, w skali roku jak często się ze sobą widzimy?
no co ty nie wiesz?
We try to keep in regular touch, whether it's talking on FaceTime or simply just texting each other some daily updates. Having the ability to do that honestly makes life so much easier, but I never thought that we would be limited to it.
COVID-19 can be characterized as a pandemic.
How bad is the pandemic going to be?
The deaths in the last 24 hours have taken off significantly.
So there are 8,077 people who've tested positive for coronavirus in the UK.
How people and their families are managing what is, after all, a global crisis.
The death toll from coronavirus rose by 87, the biggest daily rise so far.
Good evening. The coronavirus is the biggest threat this country has faced for decades, and this country is not alone. The time has now come for us all to do more. From this evening, I must give the British people a very simple instruction. You must stay at home.
The Polish government has declared a state of epidemic threat to limit the spread of the coronavirus.
Zamykamy.
This means that we are closing our doors for the pandemic. We also close our doors to danger, and in this way, we protect Polish citizens.
This is like my 5th or 6th take on filming this video because I never actually thought I'd have to add something like this in. To give you a bit of background, coronavirus is a virus that causes a disease called COVID-19. Now, this has already infected over 2 million people and caused over 160,000 deaths. So it's originated from China in December 2019 and it started sort of like a cluster of pneumonia cases, and by February 2020 it's literally put almost the entire world to halt. Schools, shops, public places and sporting events and stuff like that have all been either banned or shut down completely. So given all that, obviously all non-essential travel has been banned as well.
Well, British citizens are being advised not to travel anywhere in the world for the next 30 days because of the coronavirus pandemic. The Foreign Secretary, Dominic Raab, made the announcement in the House of Commons.
So with immediate effect, I've taken the decision to advise British nationals against non-essential travel globally.
I kind of make myself laugh thinking that when I first started this documentary I was talking about restrictions that stop me from going to see my family, such as poor weather conditions resulting in delayed flights, or things like not really being able to afford the flights or the travel, or, you know, like living costs and stuff. And now we're here, and I'm supposed to be flying to Warsaw in 3 weeks today. I never even thought that this video could take such a turn. It's all very uncertain at the moment, and
So another 3 weeks of lockdown in the UK. It is a very big decision, but what's the data that underlies it? We can give you a sense of what's going on in the UK by having a look at some of these numbers. You're probably familiar with this chart already, showing you the death tolls in various different countries around the world. A very depressing chart. It's a logarithmic chart.
So this morning I woke up to an email from Ryanair. There we are, Ryanair cancellation. We sincerely regret to advise you that due to the impact of COVID-19, Ryanair has been forced to cancel your flight from Stansted to Warsaw on 6th of May 20. Please advise any other customers who may be travelling in your party. I think I'm going to conclude this by saying that the distance sucks, and not being able to see your family as often as you would like is not ideal, but it does make you appreciate the time you have together more. Instead of focusing on the small things that might annoy you, you put all of your attention into making great memories and having a great time. With every trip you sort of become like a different version of yourself, a happier one. All the bad things that might be going on don't really matter anymore, because all you want to do is just enjoy life at that particular moment right there, knowing that in a few days it will be over. This is why I believe that the distance doesn't just affect the relationship between me and my family, but it also affects me and who I am as a person. Having two homes kind of translates into having two identities in a way, each of them improving every step of the way, and they both teach each other the importance of certain things. Having to travel every time I want to see my family has taught me the importance of time. It taught me to be humble, and it taught me to be loving, and it taught me a lot about respecting family values and traditions. This seemingly unfortunate situation I found myself to be living in has actually turned out to be quite beneficial, especially now being in the middle of the pandemic, losing jobs and cancelling trips and having to isolate myself from everyone. I cope well because I know everything is only temporary, and I will eventually see my family again.